Revolver News has done it again, working with Republican Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie.
Now let's talk about these pipe bombs that were planted at the RNC and the DNC the night before January 6th. The FBI is offering a $500,000 reward, which frankly is the kind of reward you'd expect for a major terrorist figure. Why is this the missing link in the prosecution?
I think the police have been unequivocal that those devices distracted them at a sensitive moment, derailed their efforts to respond to the riot itself during the early moments of the attack. They were a problem.
We've found video that looks like somebody, a passerby, miraculously found this pipe bomb at the DNC and then notified the police. Miraculously, I say, because it was specifically the precise time to cause the maximum distraction from the events going on at the Capitol. Can you show this video that we have, please? I'd like to know if the director has seen this.
This would become the first major breach of the Capitol grounds and skirmish with Capitol Police.
And for what it's worth, the backpack guy is reportedly a plainclothes Capitol Police officer, an important detail I'll get back to later. So when they finally get out of their units, you can see children walking by just a few feet away from a supposed live pipe bomb, and yet authorities never yell at them to get back. In fact, the officers themselves all stand around the bomb very closely. They have another officer come over and take a quick picture of it. He gives them a thumbs up, and then they start making calls for the bomb squad to send in into a robot to defuse it.
Ray Epps, who we just saw calling for demonstrators to enter the Capitol, can be seen approaching the front of the barricades and speaking to Ryan Samsel. Moments later, the barricade is pushed directly into the police line.
If that person found the pipe bomb, would they be a suspect?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate about specific individuals. I will tell you that we have done thousands of interviews, reviewed something like 40,000 video files, of which this is one, assessed 500-something tips.
Have you interviewed that person?
Devices. We have conducted all logical investigative steps and interviewed all logical individuals at this point.
Then you need, it's 900 days. You need to tell us what you found, because we're finding stuff you haven't released into the public. And well,
Deputy Chief Waldo orders the less lethal team to launch.
Unit 6, I got a crowd fighting with officers, pushing, throwing projectiles. I have given warnings about chemical munition. I need the less than lethal team positioned above me to identify the agitators and start deploying. Launch, launch, launch!
The January 6th, was beyond a weaponization of government. It was a nuclearization of government against the government. I believe I heard that you said that you didn't have any prior notice or reason to believe that there would be such an event on January 6th. Is that correct?
We did not, to my knowledge at least, have prior knowledge of an attempt, a violent overthrow and breach of the Capitol building itself. Certainly we were concerned about and put out a number of products, intelligence products, to partners and others, warning of the potential for violence more generally on
people underneath her, some of her subordinates, and they sent her information basically saying it was going to happen. But one of the most important pieces of intel that she had, it was an intel report 21 TD 159. She had that report and she got it, I think it was December the 21st. Basically saying what was going to happen, that the Capitol was going to be breached, they were going to kill and hurt officers. She had the intel report. During her committee testimony, I think it was in February, the beginning of February, she said that she gave the intel report to her deputies and she did not give it to her deputies. And one of the deputies, a high-ranking deputy, was a whistleblower. And he came out and said no. I guess he was stunned that she even said that she gave it to them, because she didn't. And when they brought it to her attention, she never felt it was important to correct the record of her congressional testimony. So we can prove she didn't give. And this is the frustrating part, and I've learned to deal with it over the past few years, that we can basically prove January 6th was a setup. There are multiple whistleblowers who came out to say basically what information Pittman had, and then Pittman ended up firing the people who worked for her, who would could testify to what they had. But by her firing the people, now it makes them look like disgruntled employees because they went and they got terminated. But the problem was that, like, I was a whistleblower. The high-ranking whistleblower that I referred to, his name is Jeffrey J. Pickett, and he was a deputy chief on January 6th who actually responded when he saw the chaos, and he responded from Cheltenham, Maryland to D.C. to assist. Yogananda Pittman was already there, and she wouldn't help us. So I can go on and on and on, but I'll let you jump in and ask a question.
So there have been, I think Tucker Carlson and some of the members' colleagues on the other side of the aisle have said that Ray Epps was a secret government agent in helping encourage this crime so as to make the president look bad. Do you have any knowledge of Ray Epps being a secret government agent?
As soon as President Trump is finished speaking, we are going to the Capitol. It's that direction. That's where our true problems lie. President Trump is done speaking. We are going to the Capitol. That's where our problems are. We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction.
He was filmed the night prior, urging the crowd to go inside the Capitol.
I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it, okay? Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. Peacefully.
The crowd surrounding him instantly calls him out as a Fed. At 12:35 p.m., Mike Pence's motorcade is seen heading to the Capitol, turning left on Constitution Avenue from Louisiana Avenue.
Stay back, please.
A minute later, at 12:36, Vice President Mike Pence arrives at the U.S. Capitol.
The Vice President's motorcade has just arrived at the Capitol in advance of the joint session.
The certification is to begin in 24 minutes at 1 p.m. Eastern. As Mike Pence arrives, a crowd is already assembled at the barricades in front of the East Plaza of the Capitol. At this exact moment, President Trump is mentioning Mike Pence's upcoming certification at his speech on the Ellipse, over a mile away.
But now they see all this stuff. It's all come to light. It doesn't happen that fast. And they want to recertify their votes. They want to recertify. But the only way that can happen is if Mike Pence agrees to send it back.
No. I will say this notion that somehow the violence at the Capitol on January 6th was part of some operation orchestrated by FBI sources and agents is ludicrous and is a disservice to our brave, hardworking, dedicated men and women.
Director, I agree with you.
And for what it's worth, the backpack guys were reportedly a plainclothes Capitol Police officer, an important detail I'll get back to later. It's not like the bomb was hidden inside the bushes, it was literally sitting out in the open next to a bench. The DNC security guards missed it. The Secret Service missed it during their search of the perimeter for Kamala's arrival. Somehow their search dogs couldn't sniff it out, but an alleged plainclothes Capitol Police officer found it within minutes of the RNC pipe bomb also being found. That one was found 16 hours after it was planted in an alleyway behind the RNC building by a woman who works for a company called Pendulum. Revolver explains that Pendulum is a company staffed with DoD, DARPA, and CIA alums and does business with the government to combat misinformation online.
Never did Carlin Younger expect an everyday chore to spark a federal investigation.
I was doing a now infamous load of laundry, just changing it over from the washer to the dryer.
It was that load the Madison native who now lives and works in D.C. was taking back to her building when she looked down and saw something odd.
My first reaction was, this has got to be trash, until I kind of leaned closer and saw that, in fact, it was something that looked like a bomb.
There were wires, piping, and a timer, and it was right next to the Republican Party's headquarters.
You're on that edge of, I don't want to bother anybody, right? Like, I want to make sure this is real. You don't want to go down as the person who evacuates a city block for a hoax, but at the same time, there was just enough of that gut instinct that said, this isn't a place that you'd put a hoax. I have to have somebody check this out.
And she did. She would later learn it was the first of 2 bombs found in D.C. last Wednesday, the same day a mob attacked the U.S. Capitol in support of the president and his false claims the election was stolen.
Man from Arizona has now been sentenced to probation for his role in the January 6th insurrection. Ray Epps pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor. He must complete 100 hours of community service. Forced into hiding when right-wing conspiracy theorists accused him of being an undercover agent. He's filed a defamation suit against Fox News for spreading that rumor.
In an interview with Assistant Director Stephen D'Antuono, Chairman Jordan and I sent you a letter a month ago. Some of the information that we found in that interview was that phone data that could have helped to identify the pipe bomber was corrupted, was unusable. He also wasn't sure who found or how the second bomb was found at the DNC. Do you know how the second bomb was found at the DNC? And when do you plan on answering our letter?
The FBI believes that same person also left a pipe bomb outside the Republican National Committee. But here we are 3 years later, and the FBI has no idea who that person is.
900 days ago is when this happened, and you said you had total confidence we'd apprehend the subject. We've found video that looks like somebody, a passerby, miraculously found this pipe bomb at the DNC and then notified the police. Miraculously, I say, because it was at specifically the precise time to cause the maximum distraction from the events going on at the Capitol. Can you show this video that we have, please? I'd like to know if the director has seen this.
Mike Pence has to agree to send it back.
A minute later at 12:45 p.m., a D.C. police camera captures what looks like a wall of people suddenly arriving about a block west of the Capitol.
Never did Carlin Younger expect an everyday chore to spark a federal investigation.
I was doing a now infamous load of laundry, just changing it over from the washer to the dryer.
It was that load the Madison native who now lives and works in D.C. was taking back to her building when she looked down and saw something odd.
My first reaction was, this has got to be trash, until I kind of leaned closer and saw that, in fact, it was something that looked like a bomb.
There were wires, piping, and a timer, and it was right next to the Republican Party's headquarters.
Is it true that the Secret Service cell phone records were deleted for that day on January 6th?
I'm not certain that all of them. We had difficulty with getting some of them.
Was your investigation hindered in part by the deletion of those Secret Service text messages?
We could have had a better and more thorough report had we had access to all those records.
When did you discover those messages were deleted?
During the course of the investigation.
Who was the Secretary of Homeland Security at that time?
January?
No, when you discovered the messages were deleted.
Alejandro Mayorkas.
I don't know if you remember when Yogananda Pittman gave her first testimony, or one of her first testimonies, she was speaking to a congresswoman, and in that discussion, she said, Yogananda Pittman said that she was on the phone with both Sergeant at Arms respectively, and they were discussing the evacuation. So the congresswoman asked specifically, if you were talking to both Sergeant at Arms at the same time, why did the house get evacuated later? She never answered that question. And the reason was because she was not initiating any evacuation, because I did it. So now, if she would have, at least, because she's watching all of this take place on camera, because she has cameras all over the command center, and from what I heard, she never left the command center. So she's in there and she's watching, and she would not help. If she would have evacuated or called for the evacuation of the house when I did the Senate, Ashley Babbitt would have met an empty chamber when she walked in there, and she would have never been shot.
You're on that edge of, I don't want to bother anybody, right? Like, I want to make sure this is real. You don't want to go down as the person who evacuates a city block for a hoax, but at the same time, there was just enough of that gut instinct that said, this isn't a place that you'd put a hoax. I have to have somebody check this out.
And she did.
We did not, to my knowledge at least, have prior knowledge of an attempt, a violent overthrow and breach of the Capitol building itself. Certainly we were concerned about and put out a number of products, intelligence products, to partners and others, warning of the potential for violence more generally on that date.
So,
first of all, what was the number of that intel report again?
21 TD 159.
21 TD. Who drafted that? I'm just going to put it in the chat so everybody has it. Who drafted that report, as far as you know?
The report was drafted from our intel unit. And I believe that they gathered information from the FBI and other resources to send it to her. So she had it. I think it's even public. You can go take a look at it. And the thing about it is that
I will dismiss the sergeant at arms the day I become majority leader, January 21st, if McConnell, who appointed him, doesn't get rid of him sooner. He must go. He did a terrible, terrible job. The men and women of the Capitol Hill Police, they're fine people, but they had no leadership, no preparation. Everyone knew this would happen. The sergeant at arms has been derelict in his duty. He doesn't deserve to be in office. Again, he was appointed by Mitch McConnell because McConnell is majority leader. If McConnell doesn't get rid of him, I will the first day that I become majority leader, January 21st.
Of the chief of the Capitol Police, Mr. Sund, and I have received notice from Mr. Irving that he will be submitting his resignation. Having said that, we'll have the after-action review, but it goes beyond the Capitol Police. It goes to the FBI. What was the shortcoming in their intelligence that they provided? It goes to the Department of Defense. How long did it take for them to respond or anticipate the need for the National Guard? It goes to many other elements of the executive branch.
Tonight from an explosive letter written by an anonymous former Capitol Police officer describing top department officials as responsible for the single greatest intelligence failure in the history of the U.S. Capitol Police, calling out senior leaders Yogananda Pittman and Sean Gallagher specifically.
The high-ranking whistleblower that I referred to, his name is Jeffrey J. Pickett, and he was a deputy chief on January 6th.
These criminals came prepared for war. They came with their own radio system to coordinate the attack and climbing gear and other equipment to defeat the Capitol's security features.
Quote, what I observed was them mostly sitting there, blankly looking at the TV screens showing real-time footage of others. A law enforcement source tells NBC News the two leaders were focused on the evacuation of congressional leadership.
So the Congresswoman asks specifically, if you were talking to both sergeant at arms at the same time, why did the House get evacuated later? She never answered that question. And the reason was because she was not initiating any evacuation because I did it.